Okay, we're reconvening open session at 7:07. Welcome everyone to Governing Board meeting of December 14th, 2017. The board met in closed session from 6:05 to 7:07 and no action was taken. Pledge of Allegiance. Martha, would you like to do it? I would have chosen you, Raj, but you were looking down.
Hand over your heart. Are you ready to begin? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Martha. It takes us to item 7, adoption of agenda is presented. Do I have a motion to adopt our agenda? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5+1. Takes us to item 8, governing board reorganization. Hold elections to determine governing board officers and designate governing board representatives for 2018. The first is president. Do I have a motion for a new president?
So moved.
You
asked for a motion.
A motion for nominating.
A nomination.
And motion and nomination for a new president.
I move that we start the nomination process, and I would like to nominate Rob Papalardo.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 5+1. Thank you all.
Alrighty. All right, thank you, Freya. Appreciate that. Continuing on 8A, the next position is for vice president. Do I have any nominations or a nomination for vice president?
I nominate Sophia Lane for vice president.
Thank you for that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor? Great. Welcome to the vice presidency of the Cabrillo Unified School District. That's fantastic. Thank you. All right. Next, we are going to move to clerk to the governing board. Do I have a nomination for clerk to the governing board?
I nominate Kim Hines.
Second.
And do I have a second? I do. Well, thank you, Freya. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. That's 5-0. All in favor. +1. Thanks, sir. Nice surprise. I didn't know you were going to, we thought you might not be here tonight. Well, welcome. Okay, great. All right. All right. Then secretary to the governing board nomination. That is, of course, Jane. Nothing changes there. Do we need to? No.
It's an official appointment. You just appointed.
I just appointed her. I just appointed you.
Mr. President, motion to approve your appointment.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve the appointment?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, now so is the same for the signatories, Patty? How does that work?
That's an en masse vote, and yes, you motion to approve as read, and then it's an appointment, but you're gonna.
Okay,
approve
could
that.
I have a motion to approve as read for authorization of the signatories for the governing board?
So moved.
All right, and a second?
President, vice president,
Oh.
clerk to the governing board, and secretary to the governing board, superintendent J. Reeser.
All right, great. What do I need to say in that regard then? Is that done?
That you a motion to approve the authorized signatories for the governing board, president, vice president, clerk to the governing board, and secretary to the governing board, as authorized signatories.
Didn't I already say that? Yeah, what she said.
Okay, so now you just need the motion and the second.
I move
What she said.
May I have a motion to support the authorization of signatories for the governing board?
So moved.
All right, and I need a second.
Second.
All right.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and 5+1. All right, it's still warming up here, so thanks for the patience. All right, board spokesperson is traditionally the president. So again, same process, I authorize the board spokesperson.
Write down the list and then in mass vote.
I authorize all of them, all the way down the list, is that what you're saying?
Or some have to kind
Or then we'll, okay, so, but we'll need to decide who wants to be representatives.
Right.
So I think we'll have to actually do them one at a time.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so currently, who's representative to the, does anyone have a desire to be representative to the County Board of Education?
I've been doing it, I don't mind doing it continuously, unless anybody wants to take it over and or share.
It's all yours.
Okay, so we'll,
Any of us decide.
so then I'll have a motion to support Sophia as,
I would just keep going, do it all, and then.
thank you, thank you. Okay, great.
We did decide.
Thanks, Patty. Okay, so the next one is number 8, representative to the San Mateo County Committee on School District Organization. Who's- Anybody have a strong desire to take over from Freya? Okay, great. All right, so that's Freya. All right, representative to the San Mateo County School Boards Association. Who is doing?
I can continue to do it. Attended events.
You're willing to continue? Does anybody else have a desire to do that one? All right, Kim, you're going to continue. All right, representative to the City Council of Half Moon Bay. Kurt, were you doing that one?
I'll continue.
Okay. Representative to the Mid-Coast Council. Who had done that? Anybody? I've done it.
Yes.
Kim, would you like to continue in that role? Okay. Representative of the Measure S Steering Committee. Has anybody been doing that?
Have we always had this I have the Cabrillo Foundation.
Well, I skipped one, number 12.
We have a measure, number 12.
It's measured.
We've never had one before.
We've never had one.
We just
No.
strike it.
We
Unless
do not
they
need it.
request it.
Delete it.
Oh, it's the steering committee, so never mind, this is an error, this shouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
So you're past the steering committee, that was mistake.
All right, we'll strike that one.
Apologies.
Okay. Representative of the Cabrillo Education Foundation. I've been doing that. I haven't really been very active, frankly, but does anybody have a desire to do it? I'm glad to continue. Okay, there's Rob. All right. Representative of the Chamber of Commerce Education Committee. Okay, Frank, thank you. All righty, we'll move on to the school sites. Kirk, I believe you've been Hatch, is that accurate? Oh, was it you guys were doing it together?
She's mostly, he's at half every day. But you just continue in that mode.
Okay, so Sophia, you'll. El Granada Elementary. Do you want to continue in that one? Farrell on View Elementary. Has that been you, Fran? No, who's been? Who's it been? That's it.
Who's been your board rep?
Who's been my board member?
Yeah, who's your board member who comes to your school?
I think it was Freya.
I think so.
Freya was last year.
Yeah, good job.
Would you like to continue?
You're the nurse.
Is it okay?
Kings Mountain, I believe, was me. Was that right? Yeah, I'll continue. Let's make the graduation. Cunha Intermediate.
That's me as well.
Would you like to continue in that one? Okay.
We'll have.
Half Moon Bay High School has been myself and Kim. Okay. Rob and Kim. And Pilarcitos High School.
It is in the daytime.
It's the one where I. Great school.
So Kirk, you're going to continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll share.
Good to get back up. You can back them up in the daytime.
Who's backing up? You're gonna back up? Is that what you're saying? I hear Kim also saying, okay, okay.
That's for her officially.
Okay, great. All right, so may I have a motion to authorize the roles that we just went through and reviewed?
So,
Do you have a motion first? So moved?
I just asked for a motion.
So moved.
Yep, so moved. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right, 5 plus 1.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, and the sub-8s, we already did all of those. Is there an oath to be done, Patty?
pardon?
Is 8A2 is indicated an oath? That's just
We
document.
didn't do that.
Yeah,
That's.
it's just-
Viola and Linda.
Yeah, that's just a click through,
And
yeah.
Campbell would be somewhere.
Got it. Okay. All right, so let's move on to 8B, approve and adopt the 2018 Governing Board meeting calendar as required by Board Bylaws 9100. So I believe we've got to pull out our personal calendars and review the calendar. Okay, you're good? Everybody's good? Yep, we have a motion to approve the calendar. Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, 5 plus 1. All right, complete annual review of Board Bylaw 9250 as it pertains to compensation. Individuals may elect to receive for service as members to the governing board for 2018. So the board has the option to receive compensation for the services. Traditionally, we have opted out and have not participated either in the insurance or any level of compensation. So we've reviewed those. Do we have a motion to, no motion for that?
Motion not to accept 2018 compensation or health insurance for services allowed by the governing board or by bylaw 9250. Yeah, official.
Formally
Okay.
decline it otherwise.
So may I have a motion to approve the declining of any compensation in our role as school board members?
So moved.
And may I have a second? Give a second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 5 plus 1. Moving along. Okay, that's it. And number 9, highly unusual, no student, staff, or community recognition.
So originally, this evening was scheduled to be the Pillarcitos presentation. However, unfortunately, Raj.
Equally handsome, I recognize the confusion. All right.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
Raj, sorry. And I was just at Pillarcitos today, how embarrassing. Had a personal, so not able to present, he will come back in May, and we will do the recognitions in May as we celebrate first.
Okay, no problem. All right, we'll get to that next session. All right, number 10 is comments from the public related to items not on this agenda. Patty is indicating no green sheets, no one, anybody in the crowd have anything they want to comment on? Okay, thank you. Moving along, number 11, representative reports. Kathy, come on up, CUTA.
Sean's still tonight, so he's not here, and.
Would you like to
we're just
come
gonna
up?
say-
No?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Happy holidays.
A delight to see you. Thank you for coming. All right, awesome. All right. Well, thank you from CTA and CSEA representative. Do not see anyone in attendance. Okay. All righty. Well, let's move on to number 12. Reports, information, and presentations. 12A is receive annual Measure S bond program report.
So usually the chair of the Measure S Oversight Committee would be standing here and delivering you the report that is attached to the back of this informational sheet. However, he is out ill, and so he just asked me to present it on his behalf, which is attached behind, again, the informational sheet, and we will be approving it later in the agenda.
Okay. So that is the extent of that, okay? Great. And then we're gonna go to 12B, receive report on local control accountability plan goal 1 and 2 update. And that's Joy. Thank you, Joy. Oops, Joyce. That was close, geez, yeah.
Good evening, trustees of the board, President Rob Papalardo. I'm Joy Dardanelle, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. And today is my pleasure to introduce our Strategic Education Plan update for Goal 1 and Goal 2. The Strategic Education Plan is also known as our Local Control Accountability Plan, or sometimes referred to as the LCAP. It's part of the way that school districts report and annually update on the local control funding formula. Today, we're going to be focusing on 2 specific goals. Goal 1, which focuses on literacy and reclassification, and Goal 2 on college and career readiness. This is a strategic education plan update specifically for 2016 and 2017, not our progress for this 17-18 school year. As a reminder, Goal 3 is parent engagement and Goal 4 is safety and school climate. As a public institution, one of our primary goals is to educate students to prepare them for their life outside of school. And the foundational piece of that is reading and literacy, and that's one of the reasons why we've intentionally created our Goal 1 around literacy. Goal 2 also is a way that we measure the students' progress in terms of being able to gain access to all of those opportunities out of our school doors. Goal 1 in our strategic education plan is for all students to have the necessary academic skills so that they're college and career ready. That there will be a particular focus on literacy and reclassification for the district English learner students. We are not going to be presenting each target that we set. We wanted to select ones that really tell the story about the data as a whole. And the first piece that I'm going to be sharing with you is our CASP, which is the California Assessment for Student Performance and Progress, the CASP English Language Arts target, which was that we wanted to see an increase in grades 3, 5, 8, and 11 of 5% as measured by the state assessment. We did not meet our target growth of 5%. In fact, in analyzing our scores from last year, we see troubling data that our students are not showing the growth that we'd like to see through time. And although in digging deeper into this data, we did see some growth within cohorts, that growth was not consistent for every cohort through time in our district. We recognize that CASP data is only one piece of data that we can look at. And so we paired that today with our reading benchmark data. This is a local assessment, and our target for our local reading assessment would be that to see an increase in the percent of students that are at or above grade level in reading in grades 3 and 5 as measured by our district reading assessment, which you may have heard referred to as the Fontes and Pinnell reading assessment. This is different than the CASP data because the CASP data is comparing 2 different cohorts of students from spring 2016 with another, for example, 5th grade group in spring 2017. This Fontes and Pinnell data is looking at the same cohort of students from fall to spring. We wanted to see the 5% increase for all students as well as our subgroups of English learners and our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. In looking at the results for 3rd grade, we see that there was, again, we did not meet the goal. We did see some increase of a 3% overall increase for this particular group of students as a whole, and then specifically our English learner students. There was a 3% decrease overall, or a decrease in proficiency for the same group of students who were low-income students, identified low-income students in that cohort. Our 5th grade data similarly showed a decrease of proficiency for our low-income students, as well as a decrease in proficiency for all students and English learners. To be a little bit clear about this is that it's measured against a fall benchmark and a spring benchmark. So they're not decreasing in proficiency necessarily from a spring benchmark comparison, but a fall benchmark to a spring benchmark. With both of these pieces of data, and this is just really a summary of the information, we've looked a lot more deeply at it. We can draw conclusions that students are not making sufficient progress towards literacy as measured by both of these benchmarks, both our state assessment as well as our local benchmarks. And we understand that this is really a calling for us to really examine more closely the data, not just at a global level or at a macro level, but even at a much more intricate level to understand what's happening with our students. And not only do we need to examine that data, but we need to really think about how that affects our instruction and the interventions that we're providing in English language arts so that we can meet the needs of all students in our district. In this summary of, or in this, as we're analyzing this information, we know that there are actions that can happen quickly, and we know that there's some actions that are going to happen through time. Some of the actions that we're taking as soon as January is that we're going to be piloting iReady in English language arts in grades 4 and 5 and select classes at CUNY. Specifically, iReady is both a diagnostic and it also has a digital intervention piece that's available in both English language arts as well as in math. This pilot, and I'll have a slide where I'll talk about it a little bit more, will provide us with more diagnostic information that's more detailed. For example, in the CASP data right now, when we look at it, we see that students are not yet at standard. With iReady, it'll help us to pinpoint what specific areas students are behind in and at what grade level they developmentally are, even if their age grade level is not the same as where their developmental grade level is in English language arts or math. And this diagnostic is also then paired with the digital intervention piece, which tackles students at the level where they are developmentally rather than just at the developmental level or their grade level equivalent. In addition to piloting iReady, we also are having many conversations about data analysis and the effectiveness of interventions. Those conversations are happening at a district level as well as a site level. In fact, tomorrow in this room, I'll be meeting with the elementary principals to really delve deeply into not just this data, but their site-based data so that we can come up with a more developed and well-rounded and well-understood plan of how we're approaching these challenges for our students. The third action that we're taking immediately is also increasing, looking into opportunities to increase the extended day programs and summer intervention programs. This is through looking at our existing programs as well as looking at grants and funding to expand the programs that we currently have. I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. Oopsie. Let's go this way. This is the slide that I wanted to share about iReady. It has both the diagnostic piece as well as the instruction piece. If you look at the average growth here, this is for the students who took only the iReady diagnostic at 3 different times in the year to show where their growth was. The bar graph that continues here shows the average growth of English learners, special ed students, as well as economically disadvantaged students who also, in addition to the diagnostic, take the instructional piece 45 minutes a week, which is digital and also personalized and differentiated for them. In continuing on to our next goal, large goal within Goal 1, is the reclassification target. Our target was for the district reclassification rate to increase by 2%. As a reminder, reclassification is the process through which English learners meet English language proficiency and are designated as English proficient students. We met our target. We increased our reclassification rate from 9% to 11%, which was a 2% increase through time. And I can tell you one of the things that I really appreciate about this data isn't just that it increased and we met our target. We know why we met the target, and I think that's the most important part of how we want to focus on continuous improvement, not just in feeling good that we met the target, but we know exactly why. And I can tell you that 2 major reasons why we met that 2% target is that we really revamped our reclassification process to make sure that we provided additional avenues for reclassification for students that did not have avenues to reclassification before. For example, students who had individual education plans, IEPs as we also call them, or for students who might have been at different grade levels to ensure that they had for grade levels that didn't have the CASP assessment, which was one of the measures that we had used for reclassification. In providing additional avenues for reclassification and alternatives to the forms of reclassification that we had before, we were able to capture students who we know should be reclassified, but we weren't identifying them before. In addition, we had a very successful summer Jumpstart reclassification program, which I had spoken about in our prior summer school intervention presentation. And this was another way of creating an alternative avenue for students who are right on the cusp. Instead of having them wait a full year again for results, they were able to take the reclassification class over the summer, and if they passed the assessments, they were able to be immediately placed in classes that were not English language development classes in the fall, which has a significant impact on other measures that we'll see later on, for example, the A through G requirements, which we will see. The third piece that I added here is not necessarily something that contributed to the reclassification rate, but something that we know we need to continue to do in order to ensure that those students who've been reclassified are successful. And that's continuing to monitor reclassified students as they move up through the grades. The next goal is Goal 2, which focuses on college and career readiness. Again, we didn't take every measure within Goal 2 to share. We took out a couple of them to help you understand the effectiveness of the goal overall. And this particular one is the A through G completion target. Our target was to increase the percentage of students that complete high school with UC and CSU A through G course requirements by 2%. UC and CSU A through G course requirements are a set of courses that are required for students in order for them to be able to be minimally prepared to apply and get into a UC or CSU. In looking at our data from the 15-16 to 16, this actually should be 16-17 to 2006, it's the 15-16 to the 16-17 school year. The students who completed the A through G course requirements was at 57% for both years across the district as well as at Half Moon Bay High. We saw a 0% change. Now, in looking at that, we are tackling this idea about how to better prepare for students for the UC and CSU requirements. And part of that, we understand that these are requirements that students take over the course of 4 years of high school. And right now, we're starting to analyze more closely what areas and what requirements are the students struggling in. So for example, in English language arts, I think it was actually in math, 78% of our graduates who did not meet our A through G requirements did not meet the math requirement. 69% of our graduates who did not meet the English requirement, it was 69%, and then 50% who did not meet our science requirement. So when we start to look at this more global data, behind the scenes, We're really digging in to understand what's causing this. What are the gateway courses? How can we provide access for students at that gateway level? How can we inform students who are still at CUNA and their families so that they will be aware of the A through G requirements? We recognize, as I said, that there are some actions that we can do immediately, and there are some actions that are going to take more time to implement, number one, and then also to see the results of that change. We also had an early college target, which was to establish a no-cost early college program using Half Moon Bay High School as a base location. I think this is one of the most exciting programs that I've seen developing in our district, and I want to thank Superintendent Euster for her leadership in developing the early college programs here. In the 16-17 school year, we had a total of 6 course credits that served a total of 62 students in the early college program at the high school. Oh, I keep accidentally hitting that. One of our other goals under career, college and career readiness is to develop a career technical education pathway to meet local agribusiness needs. And we've developed an agri-science pathway, and you'll see later on as an action item the approval for one of the capstone courses for this pathway. And this is one of the ways that we're helping to support the students in our schools who really want to be able to see, to go into careers and technical pathways when they leave. In addition to the agri-science pathway that we've developed, we also are in the process of developing construction and broadcasting as career technical pathways. Another one of our targets within Goal 2 is to set a baseline for the number of AVID students. AVID is the Advancement via Individual Determination. And to see how many of our AVID high school students, specifically our seniors, are seeking college admission. This was one of the most exciting pieces of information that I had in collecting data, not just data for this presentation, but data in the fall as I review data often. And we know that 21 of our seniors participated in AVID. And I know that I reported last year that we had 20 who applied to four-year universities. I can report today that all 20 actually got accepted to four-year universities, which is amazing, and I'm very proud of every one of those 20 students. 13 of them are attending four-year universities. The other 7 who applied for personal reasons chose not to attend four-year universities. And that 8 students are attending community college, which includes the 1 student who did not apply to a four-year university. In summary, in looking at goals 1 and 2, we know that we're making progress. We're making some progress. We see that there is an increase in reclassification, and we know exactly why there's an increase in reclassification. We see that there's improved availability for college and career courses, and we have a plan for how we can continue to develop those courses and that availability to access for college and career. And we know that we have a solid baseline for AVID students who are seeking college admission. We know that we had 20 students, and of those 20 students, all 20 of them were accepted into four-year universities. We also recognize that we have areas for growth, which includes the need for quicker formative assessments, in which I think the iReady diagnostic in both English language arts and math will help us. And again, this is not a commitment to it, but we are piloting it. We also know that we need to have timely data analysis, and with a quicker diagnostic that measures the development of each of our students, that will help our timely data analysis to be more effective in providing those supports in a timely way. We also know that we need to look more closely at our differentiated instruction and intervention, because as a whole, we know that there are many students in our district who are not meeting the literacy and the college and career readiness goals that are not just our district's goals, but the goals and standards that they're going to be held to when they leave here. In addition, we know that we want to continue to explore extended day and summer programs to help support and scaffold the work that students are doing within the school day here in our district. I know this was a lot of information, and I appreciate some of the the questions that we've gotten, but do you have any questions for me at this time?
Anybody have any questions,
I do.
comments?
Sorry, it's not one I thought of originally, but, and if you don't have to answer now, I'm a little curious about high school students that might not have reclassified. Would those be students that come to our district later? I know many of our students are with us K through 12. Do we have students that have been with us through beginning in kindergarten, have come all the way through, and in high school have still not been reclassified?
Yes, we do have students who started in kindergarten and have not been reclassified. Compared to other districts, we have very little mobility for students who are coming in who have not been in our district and are still not reclassified. We do have a number of newcomers at any time, but the overall number of students are students who have been in the district for over 6 years. Minimally over 6 years. And I use that number because that's the number we talk about with long-term English learners.
So we really are here a long time.
Yes,
And it don't progress,
yes,
so we own it.
yes.
Any other comments or questions?
I have. Yeah, let's just focus on that. Thank you for the report. It's clear, and it's clear that we're taking appropriate actions and moving forward on tackling this is a huge problem. And a large part of it is understanding, or seeing the problem and recognizing it as a problem. It's great. In the action slide, you have 3 bullets, the pilot I-Ready, frequent analysis, and increasing standard day. I want to hear more about the I-Ready thing. That we say frequent site-based data analysis on effectiveness. What's the frequency going to be?
What is the frequency going to be?
Yeah, what do you call frequent?
So I think one of the ways to look at data analysis is that it happens at different levels for different reasons. Teachers do assessments on their students on a daily basis, depending on what class you're in, and they may not assess all students on a daily basis, but they're often assessing someone on a daily basis. And that may look at, for example, at a kindergarten level, a teacher walking by and realizing that a student still is not quite understanding that a C and a K are different letters. And it might be at the high school level, a student taking the end of unit test for math, for example. But then we also have that site-based analysis. And that site-based analysis with the principals happens depending on what the area is, at different frequencies. So for example, with the positive behaviors, interventions, and supports, that's just one piece of data and that's not related to English language arts. They meet monthly on that. If we're talking about the choice of moving students in or out of reading intervention, that's something that's happening minimally every 6 to 10 weeks because they need to move students. So they're looking at that whole large site-based data in order to make decisions. We use site-based data, for example, when we're looking at summer schools and figuring out, okay, who are the students who we need to move into summer school? Counselors at the high school are looking at site-based data minimally, well, very often for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons as it pertains to this presentation is in looking at A through G requirements and identifying students who are starting to fall off track and trying to communicate with them and their parents about how they can make different decisions in order to either make up those A through G requirements. At a district level, we have a lot of information that we look at for a variety of reasons. For me, I may look at the CASP data at really intensely for a period of time, but then what happens is that there's all of these offshoots of other questions that I have. And then I'm focusing on my offshoot questions and the data related to my offshoot questions. So for example, the A through G data, I looked at it once and I know there was zero growth. But now what I'm looking at is what is the passing rate of C- and D- at biology for the past 3 years, because I want to know that. So the type of data analysis happens depending on what it is. As a principal team, we are focusing, as an administrative team, we are focusing a lot more on data analysis. And one of the opportunities that we've just presented to all the principals to invite them to participate in is a continuous improvement science professional development opportunity that's going to be happening in April. And the focus of that is this data analysis that happens in these quick cycles of improvement.
So there's a lot of assessment going on, and how often is that entered into whatever your central data system is, so that, is that updated as frequently as possible so that the data can grow and there's somebody looking at this that says, okay, we're learning something here, we need to do this to adjust the strategy.
So we have data cycles and we have assessments that we enter into our data system. One of the things that we've noticed about it is that the data that we're getting, sometimes by the time we see it, feels a little bit delayed. And sometimes what it's showing us is yes or no, are they on or are they off? Yes or no, and it's always about that grade level. And that's one of the reasons why we want to look at a diagnostic that's structured differently. We want something that we could actually get a lot more quickly, that we can actually use, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but iReady is actually an assessment that can be used kindergarten through 12th grade, the same assessment. And it will show you where students are developmentally on a K-12 spectrum. And that's one of the things that we need more information about. We don't want to know that a student's not at 6th grade yet. That doesn't help us in looking at how we need to structure interventions and whether it's extended day or summer interventions, and it makes it harder for us to even measure how the effectiveness is. And so being able to have a very consistent, research-based diagnostic in both English, language arts, and math will significantly, if we choose to in the end after the pilot, it will make a significant difference in the way that we're even able to tackle data. Because right now, if you look at CASP data, we're looking at data that was collected and in May.
Okay, so, thanks. That segues into the pilot iReady. So that's a pilot right now, it's at 2 grade levels. Where's iReady been? Is that a new thing? Or
So,
new to us, but
yes, it is new to us. So we have been using things, so one of the things I'll say is that as a unified district, I value being unified. And one of the things that we've seen in the past is that different schools will try different things. And we're really trying to unify, partially because I think it makes our data stronger and it helps us to really focus our resources more specifically. So there have been different programs in the district that are similar to iReady. For example, the instructional piece is similar to Lexia, which is being used at elementary schools, at the high school, and at Cunha in select classes. In terms of the diagnostic, it's similar to certain types of assessments that we may have seen, but not utilized to the same extent as what it could possibly be as a K-12. It's developed by Curriculum and Associates, and they're a strong research-based organization that really focuses on professional development and research primarily, and then more with these additional assessments and supports. One of the assessments that we're currently using that was developed by Curriculum and Associates is the Brigance assessment, which is used at kindergarten, and that's the assessment that Big Lift has asked us to use across the district and across all Big Lift districts to measure the to measure the preparedness of students who are entering kindergarten.
there's no way to normalize a character or compare those, I suppose. So we're bound by that. For now, till Big Lift is over.
The Brigance assessments, you mean?
As far as iReady, you couldn't, if you liked what you got from the pilot, you couldn't fully implement it.
The pilot, in terms of the diagnostic itself, it's, again, I'm speaking of something that we haven't actually put in place at 4 or 5 extensively.
You're piloting.
We're piloting it, so what that's going to look like at kindergarten, I'm not sure yet, and Brigance is specifically for kindergarten. So it is designed to be, I'll say it that way, it's designed to be a 45-minute assessment. Now, the Brigance, it's probably about 5 minutes or 15 minutes or so. I've given the Brigance, I've been a parent watching my child receive the Brigance test or participate in the Brigance test. But the Brigance is a person-to-person assessment. So the child's asked, what's your name? Can you draw a picture? And it's 15 minutes, whereas the iReady assessment is designed to be given in 45 minutes, and it can be given to a class.
So, this sounds like a very promising piece of software. It would supplant the current Lexia or whatever. I mean, where do you find the time for this in the classroom day? To use this, say you like it?
Yeah. I think think that's a really great question, because I want things unified, and I don't want to have all of these superfluous things that we don't know if it's working or not. I can tell you that there's a couple of things that this does, and I also want to step back and say I have not seen this piloted, and I don't want to speak too soon because I'm not an iReady rep, but I can tell you that there's a need that's not being met that this definitely fills. And two of those things are the diagnostic piece that could be K-12, something that's quick, something that covers both English language arts and math, something that provides intervention for math, which is one of the pieces that the parents in last year's LCAP or Strategic Education Plan process had asked for. And we still are listening, and we know that this is something that parents want to be able to have access to. We know that Lexia, which was successful for a lot of parents, only covers K through 5th grade. And even at schools that were implementing Lexia, there were students who were in 4th grade who were finishing it. They were getting to level 18. This is something that provides students with access to grade levels beyond their current grade level, so that it not only remediates for students who are not yet at grade level, but it also helps to provide opportunities for learning for students who are above grade level.
And that seems a very fantastic and critically important value. And I hope it works.
And we will analyze the effectiveness of it after the pilot. And that's why I think I share this information, but with everything, I want to make sure that everyone hears that this is a pilot and that it will be evaluated for its effectiveness in addressing the needs that we have, which is providing a quick and easy to understand diagnostic for providing instruction for all students. And then in the end, our goal is to actually see student achievement and growth. And that's not the only thing we want, but we know that when they leave here, they're going to be held to standards that we don't make. And literacy is one of them. And that's our job.
So on the slide, they talked about percent of students proficient for the CASP. It has grades 3, 5, 8, and 11. Is the CASP given at all grade levels, and this is just a sample, or is it given only at these grade levels?
It's given in grades 3 through 8 and 11. And so that's why in the LCAP, these grades were chosen as benchmark grades.
But it's not given 9 and 10?
No.
So,
Again, there's a diagnostic or that assessment
There's a
gap. And we need to know what's happening in a way that's measured and not just based on chapter tests, for
right,
example.
so that's not a reflection on what the decision the district made. That's what the state offers, and that's the time the state allows you to take the test.
That is correct.
And to be reclassified, even if we are using a suite of diagnostics and observations, that switch doesn't get flipped officially until the CASP is completed?
Currently, there are 4 requirements for reclassification. One is parent agreement, of course. We also want teacher or site administrator agreement, so someone who can vouch for their actual performance in the classroom and at school, not just based on tests and parents, but will they be able to function without the English language development support? We also have the California English Language Development Test, or we also call it the CELT. And that test is something that is actually being phased out right now, and we're going to be having the new LPAC, which I'm not even going to try this naming for it. There's so many LPACs. It's the English language. I'm not even going to try it. Okay. So there's a new test. It's the new CELT. And so there's also this gap in time where now we're switching over to this whole new assessment. That's one of the 4 required pieces. So we're going to have a calibration phase also with seeing how the state requires us to use that new assessment and how the students do with that new assessment as well. And then the 4th piece is having something that demonstrates their proficiency at standard. And for many districts, they use the CASP. In our district, we are trying to develop these alternatives to the CASP assessment, because we recognize that for whatever reason, students may not do well on that day. But right now, we're using it more at a student-to-student basis and really looking into their story and trying to understand what's going on, instead of it being an automatic, because they got a score in English, they therefore are now reclassified. So,
Because just listening to it, it would make sense that if parents and teachers agree that a child is proficient, let's say by the end of their freshman year, they could be in the A to G requirements their sophomore year and not having to have a supplemental.
so all students are taking A through G requirements, starting when they're freshmen, but not every class is an A through G qualified class. So for example, freshman English is already an A through G course.
Yes.
So,
Right, but in terms of just freeing up a period when they would be taking an ELA course.
yes.
So it was just like not having to wait, keep someone in it
Mhm.
longer than they need to be. Would be the goal, so.
Comments, just thank you, big thank you, I've gone through the data, right, in nauseating detail. But I just want to say thank you so much for your leadership on what you're doing in terms of the content and the rigor of the analytics. This is clearly not easy, and it's a big hairy beast, and you've tackled it with poise and collaboration with the team and with the principals. For everybody to be working together in this so collaboratively is really, for me, exciting, because I think that's what it's going to take for us to figure this out for our kids. So that's all I wanted to say is thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, but first, thank you as well. I mean, I think the start of being successful is knowing where we are, and I was really excited to hear you say we know why the changes happened, why we got that 2%. That's a different language than we've had historically, so keep bringing that change. That's great. On the making progress that you indicate, the improved availability for college and career courses, just focus on the career courses, big picture. Do you have where do we want to go with that? What's missing? Can you share anything at this point? I don't mean to put you on the spot if you don't have anything.
Just in terms of the availability
Career
of college
course,
and career courses.
Right, I mean, whether it's career course, vocation, however you refer to it, and we got the Valley here with all the jobs that you don't necessarily need a 4-year. That comes to mind, whether it's coding or networking, that sort, but that may not be where we're going or what you're seeing the need. Do you have any sense of what we need to do to serve those kids who aren't thinking about a 4-year or a community college?
So, and are you talking specifically just about the early college and the other career technical courses at the high school, or are you talking about where they go afterward?
No, at the technical at the high school.
Okay,
Yeah, yes, sorry.
so I think that a couple of things. One of the big challenges about providing college level coursework at the high school is making sure that the requirements that they seek at the community college and our current personnel actually match, because we could say, well, we want this and that, but we actually have to look at matching who our people are, what their requirements are, and making sure that we all agree that how we perceive this course is the same way they perceive the course. And I know that Superintendent Euster could add a lot more to that. In terms of the career technical courses, as well as early college, we grow our programs quickly but slowly. We want to make sure that as we're growing them, we are also seeing that increase in participation and interest in the courses. So for example, seeing early college and seeing 62 students who were able to participate in early college art last year was really exciting. This spring, we're going to be having an early college history course that's going to be provided at the high school, which is, again, another opportunity. So we are growing those programs through time. And then in terms of the career technical, we want to have strong career technical pathways that are, again, very, that rest very much on the experience of the people. And right now we're really developing a strong agri-science pathway, the construction and broadcasting, and a lot of that is due to the excellent teachers that we have. I'm gonna leave it to Superintendent Euster if she wants to add anything more about the college and career vision with early college, or not.
Okay, great, no, thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I think that's everything, yep.
Well, I just want to say that the work that I talk about and what you see up here, there are so many people behind this work in the district from the classified staff who are working in the classrooms, as well as who are working here in the district office and in the school offices, as well as the teachers and even the substitute teachers who come in, and the CELT testers who come in and do, and that new LPAC testers. And there is so much love in this community for the kids, and the desire to really provide this excellent education to them. And we want to do the best that we can in helping to show the path, so that that's the rubber meets the road in that work. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks. All right, Crystal, you're up. We're 12C, receive first interim budget report for 2017, 2018.
Just, if you could just. Good evening, all. I bring to you tonight the first interim report presentation. First interim covers from July 1 to October 31st. And then basically the county and the state gives districts from November 1 through actually December 15th to prepare this financial report and to present it to their governing board. So when you look at first interim, there's not a lot of data that you're actually looking at. A lot of it is still projections. You have encumbrances from some expenditures that have already happened and that you think will happen, but the majority is still projections. It's also based off of adopted budget information that we got from May Revise, which takes place the previous May. Budget is then approved in June. So there's a lot of dead time, and still, again, a lot of projection. So I kind of compare this very similar to just our standard budget that we have. So the interim reports are status of the financial health. They must include a certification, positive certification, qualified, or a negative certification. A positive certification means that the district will meet their financial obligations for all 3 years. A qualified means that they will meet their certification for 1 or 2 of those 3 years. And a negative certification means that the district will not meet their financial obligations for all 3 years. So in the financial offices of districts, they basically operate off of this calendar where you are operating in more than one fiscal year at a time. So right now in December, when I was preparing first interim, we were also going through our 16-17 audit, which will be presented to you in January. And then we hit second interim in March, and then we begin in March the budget cycle for the following school year. So I always like to talk about the significant changes at the state level from the last time that I reported to you. So the significant changes since June have to do with the general fund revenue collections. They are tracking to the official estimates that they gave back in May. May and June revenue collections were down, and the estimated from the estimated closing projections, but July and September were up 2.6. So it's kind of like watching like a pinball game. And you just watch that budget ball bounce all around, and sometimes it hits that thing that makes all that great noise, right? And that I would equate to that 2.6 above estimate. But then the next month it's down, and then the next month it's up. So what does that mean for Cabrillo? Well, we don't know. We need to stay tuned to January 10th, which will be hopefully when I receive my Christmas present, that the state is giving us more money for this year, and we can start to look a little better. So as far as federal funding, it's still flat. Obviously, we are all aware that we are not funded adequately to serve our special needs students. So 40% of that funding is supposed to come for federal. We only get 16% of what the district receives. So that's where you see a lot of that contribution going from the unrestricted general fund to the restricted side, which basically over 95% of that is to service our special needs population. I still believe, even though we're a year into this, that we're in a transition period. There's a lot going on, especially with these new tax bills that are happening at the federal level. They will trickle down and it will affect school districts, depending on what state you're in. So with California, it's really hard to stay because we don't really get a lot of federal funding. So it'll be how that corporate tax affects the revenue for the state is how we will then feel it locally. So planning factors go into financial reporting. And again, I have to look at 3 years. I have to present to you 3. I am always looking at 5. So we have the COLA, which is the cost of living adjustment. That's statewide. That's not isolated per county or anything specific that goes in there. They look at the statewide economic growth of California to come up with these ever-changing numbers. And then we have the LCFF gap funding. And again, that 43 to 66, it's just the percentage to get us there to 100. Standing alone, they don't really make much sense because it's like you're 43.19% of the allocation award for that current year. So it gets a little convoluted. And then you have your STRS and PERS increases. And the interesting thing about, I don't know if it's interesting, it's probably a poor choice of words. The problematic thing with STRS and PERS is that over these 3 years, that's a $1.2 million increase just for this district. So when we're growing by COLA and this small LCFF gap, and we have STRS and PERS, which are mandated costs that we can't say no to, we have no choice. We have no control over those percentages. We have no say in those percentages. And yet our revenue increases are not keeping up with what our mandated costs are. Another problem that we tend to see that is outside of our control is that obviously the health and welfare costs. So I would probably say the 3 dangerous areas for Cabrillo is the STRS, the PERS, and then the health and welfare costs, because we can't, there's nothing we can control. And it definitely makes budgeting a little bit more difficult. The lottery is $146 for unrestricted, and then the restricted lottery, which goes to textbooks and textbook adoptions, is $48 per student. We do have a little bit of one-time money this year in 17-18 is $147. At budget adoption, I think it was like $32 a kid, so it's gone up. And then the standard mandate block grant of $74.15 that we opt in for to get a steady block funding. So I wanted to kind of give you this visual. I know a lot of times I present spreadsheets, and so I'm trying to move forward and presenting some of this information a little differently, and maybe it has a little bit more of an impact. And so this slide, I just call your attention to how the numbers are always changing. So we have on the slide the COLA, the LCFF gap, the one-time money, and then the mandate block grant. And you have your 1, 2, and 3 is your fiscal year. So it's your current year, your second consecutive year, and then the third out year. And we see how these numbers are constantly changing. This is the change that only happened within a couple of months. So if I extrapolated this over a period of 2 years, I can't even imagine if we could keep track of it. So what I think is important to know, we see this one-time money, right? Oh, it was at $48 at budget, and then now it's at $147. So that's a nice. It actually, depending on what he decides to do, January 10th, this could go up. I'll take it. And then the mandate block grant, nothing is steady. And then the LCFF gaps all over the place. The COLA's, it just looks flat, but it's not really exciting. But this makes it very difficult to budget because the numbers are constantly changing. And the decisions that we make for our programs for the upcoming year happen in June, and they're constantly changing these numbers. He could very well change these numbers in January when now we're halfway through the year. I think that moving forward, at least right now and probably for the next couple of years, we're not looking at any mid-year decreases like we were several years ago, which was definitely scary when districts had already spent half of their funds for those years, and there's no way that you can make up for that. So this is a snapshot of what I refer to as the multi-year projection, also known as an MYP. So it gives you the first interim numbers right now for 17-18 and then 18-19 and 19-20. Overall, our revenues for the district fund 01, so just our general fund, is about $36 million this year. And then you see this little drop in 18-19 here, but there's actually a slight increase in our LCFF revenue, which is our state aid revenue. But overall, you'll see those adjustments. And then 19-20, it's a little bit higher. What I'd like to call your attention to is under the expenditures. So you can see in all 3 years that our expenditures are higher than what the revenue is we're bringing in. They teach you in Budget 101, so you're always trying to get a balanced budget. And that's a great idea. It's very much something you would like to hope for. It's just not very practical. So how close can you get to a balanced budget? When you have control over your revenues and your expenditures, it's a much easier thing to do. But when we have mandated expenses such as our STRS and PERS and our health and welfare, it makes creating a balanced budget almost impossible because the revenue is just not there to support those mandated expenses. Here at Cabrillo, we tried to build, and I think we do a wonderful job of sustainable programs. Programs that we start, that we've done research on, that we can continue to fund and move forward. And those programs start to really have a lot of pressure applied to them when we have these mandated expenses that we're not getting funded for. So we see towards the bottom the deficit spending. So this year, a deficit of 1.2. And then we see this deficit of 18-19 on 1.6. And this primarily, as you can see when you look under supplies and services, these are flat. There's not a lot going on there. But you see this increase in employee benefits. And that's where it is. You have your standard step and column for certificated and classified salaries. That's standard. We did have negotiations last year, so we do have a new salary schedule for certificated in there. But where you're going to see this is on this employee benefit line, and that literally is a line that we have no control over. So again, a different way to look at it when we talk about our reserves. So we have our revenues on the far left for 17-18 through 19-20. So you see there's hardly any growth. I mean, this is so minimal right there. This is slightly higher. But then we look at our expenditures and we see how that's growing. And all of those bars are obviously higher than our revenues, which results in the deficit spending right there. And you can see that next year is going to be a really difficult year for us. And then you can see this reserve on how we, this is pretty good. This was like 11%, and then this is like 3.0001. It's really close to that 3%, which is required by the state. And again, that's because of those mandated costs that we just don't have any control over. So what I'm hoping to hear January 10th is that we're going to get some more revenue. This is going to flip things a little bit more. Those deficits will still be there, but they'll be less. And then our reserves will be a little bit safer that third out year. So in closing thoughts, I think it's really important to know this information, and that's the top 10 states spend $20,000, almost $21,000 per student, while California only spent $11,000. That's a deficit of $10,000. So it's like they don't want districts to deficit spend, but we're going to deficit spend on our kids compared to other states. We are one of the most economically sound and wealthiest states. There is no reason for us not to put more in education, and we are just failing to fund adequately. That $11,000, Cabrillo spends just slightly under 10, depending on what report you run. And how you look at that number, and that that 11,000, that's average across the state. I've seen district financials that are in the sevens. So, and yet we still are trying to do the best, is what Joy has said, and keeping our programs and teaching our kids. So, any questions?
Any more comments or questions?
I know.
Of course, the state has the biggest excess of 20 billion.
Mhm. Yeah, their revenues are off the chart. It'll be really interesting. Governor Brown, he wants this LCFF. So I wouldn't be surprised if in January 10th, he doesn't bring districts to target. So we're not supposed to reach targets still till 2021. So that's gonna be a slight bump in our revenue, even though, like one would think, oh, well, if you're supposed to be a target in 2021 and it's 17, 18, then you're gonna get a big chunk of money in 18, 19. No, because we're close to target right now. So Cabrillo will not feel that amount of growth. But we possibly may have other benefits of getting to target sooner. So we'll be watching those closely and then reporting out that. So second interim could look very different in many ways.
Just real quick, a reminder though, that target is back to 2007, 2008 levels.
Yes.
So fully funded at LCFF means that we're spending what we did.
And usually have.
And that was
10, 11,
11,
12.
But we have no such expenditure that is the same amount in 07 and 08, just the revenue.
Thank you, Crystal.
Okay, number 13, discussion items. We have none. That's a rare occurrence. Communications, board members. Dr. Ream, do you have anything you want to share tonight?
I would just like to thank our former president now, Brady Council, for running a great year. Thank you. That's it.
Great, Sophie?
Thanks as well, of course, and welcome, Rob, to your new role. The end of the year is always, kind of accelerates in what things that are going on, of course, with the holidays and everything. Kind of with that, I had the opportunity to attend some of the DLAC meetings recently as well, and kind of get to know a little bit better the folks that are involved, and think about how we can continue to support those groups and make sure that our parents of English learners have a voice and can come to the table and support, kind of collaborate with us, I should say, in all the very many efforts. That was really a pleasure to see, and looking at all the great work that Irene's doing, Irene Preciado, as well as what's happening with the school sites. I had the opportunity yesterday to attend a meeting at the county, which they're always excellent, so for sure folks can make time to join me. I'll drive, it's great. But it was a meeting, the leadership breakfast for the Coalition for Safe Schools and Communities. And again, another top-notch convening of folks from around the county, not only from the Office of Education from San Mateo County, but also the various law enforcement agencies and other groups that are working to support our youth, and getting past hurdles around things, simple things like information sharing, which can be very complex when you're talking about IT systems and privacy laws, and coming up with innovative ways to support kids at risk. So it was really, as always with the county meetings, encouraging and inspiring to see what can happen when we come together with people that are motivated to do good for our kids, as Joy demonstrated today or earlier as well. And Cesar, wonderful article in the Huckleberry Review. That was really cool to see. So just wanted to point that out. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a great story on one of our stars here in the district. So congratulations, Cesar, for that publicity. And how can we not acknowledge the Cougars? Go Cougars! Yay! It's hard to believe that they're going to the state championship, and really exciting that they're going to represent us in San Diego and
Spring Valley.
just Southern California.
Yeah, I know.
Way south.
Way south, but just really just continue from all, I've heard about this team and gotten to see this just in inspiring that they're a team that's put together with their teamwork and the collaboration and the excellent coaching and just really around these skills of leadership that I think we want our kids to be able to practice in different venues. I think that to me is the most inspiring part of the whole story. I mean, what's something really cool? They've achieved things we haven't achieved before, so it's pretty awesome. So other than that, I had the opportunity to attend the CEF donors year-end thing, and thanks to Jane and John and Joy for being there and representing the district and how we collaborate together with one of our important partners. So that was a good opportunity to meet and network with folks there, and fun to see. The Night of Lights was also after our last meeting. That's what we must have been right after, but always fun to see our students and our staff there representing, and it's a great chance for the kids to be up there, particularly proud to represent their school in front of the whole town. So that was really fun to see. So great to see our principals there too, you guys. So
Great, thank you, Kim.
Just to add on to Light of Lights, watching the band rock it as they walked down it was great, Light of Lights. I had the pleasure of visiting El Granada and visiting with Martha, hearing about the wonderful things going on at El Granada School. And I also was able to head up to the high school, and Mr. Nazar gave me the grand tour, which going through a number of different classrooms, and it was really exciting to see kids working in teams. And I mean, you can tell this was just part of the routine in terms of some of the collaborative and project work going on, and things going on in the art classrooms and hearing the choir, and and yes, I saw a test being taken on a Friday, so that happens too. But just really exciting things going on, and it was really intriguing too to hear Mr. Nazar talk about the administrative staff and working together just in terms of their own professional development and excellence and collaboration. So yeah, it was exciting. That was my month.
Wonderful. Freya?
Just want to say thank you to all of you for allowing me to be president for the last year. That was really fun. Enjoyed it, and I'm happy to pass it over to Rob, so congratulations. And also want to say thank you to all of the principals and the school sites for allowing me to come and do my biannual visit. I appreciated all of our conversations with the principals. I also appreciate the teachers and the staff and all the hard work that they do, and for them allowing me to come into their lunchroom and chat with me about various issues. Sometimes it's about the school, sometimes it's about kids and activities and other things, but that's been a really wonderful. So I was able to make it to all the school sites except for Pelocitos, but we have a date scheduled for January, so hopefully maybe I'll make it out to the farm as well at that time. So, that was really wonderful. And I also want to say thank you to the community. Just wanted to kind of brief comment on Joy's discussion and the iReady, and all of that would not be possible if we did not have one-to-one technology in our classrooms. And a thank you again for our Measure S bond, which has allowed us to do that. And that's one of those things you don't often see. You don't see the big buildings that go up. I mean, you see the big buildings that go up and you see the new fields, and all of those are really exciting, but the technology is also very important to our day-to-day work. So a big thank you to the community for that. I really appreciate it. And go Cougars. The last couple of games were wonderful, and I almost wish I could travel down to Southern California, but I can't this weekend. So I will find a way to watch it on live stream. And congratulations as well to our board member, student board member, and his activity in the cheer team. It was wonderful to see you in the last two games as well. So go Cougars. We'll make history. We've already made history, but
Right.
we'll make another layer of history. So.
Wonderful. Thanks, Freya. I want to thank Freya as well. 7 years working together with you, and you're just an intellectually powerful person with great insight and an incredibly collaborative spirit. And that's what I admire about your leadership, and hope to carry some components of that over to mine, but thanks a lot. Let's see, I want to talk a little bit about health and wellness. I'm on the Health and Wellness Committee at the high school, and we're kind of moving on to the next phase, but one of the things that was worked on with the staff at the high school and here at the district was the block schedule. And I happened to be talking to a teacher, and I said, "How's that going?" And this person said, "Well, I love it, and for a few different reasons, but it's a big adjustment, but related to how to teach in those different time periods, and it's a different process and so forth." But what he said that made me so happy was that he said, in the first period of the day, the kids are actually awake. They're actually able to participate. They're not there bobbing their heads. That later start time, which we started the year before, but now with the block, that's a tangible difference. It's a better experience for the teachers and for the students, and I was pretty excited about that. And there was a wellness fair at the high school. I didn't have a chance to participate, but it's just in the theme of Jane's leadership is how can we bring different resources for families and kids for challenges from mental health, anxiety, nutrition. Pick the category and show that there's services there that you're not alone. So thank you to Jane and your team for doing that, and I'm glad we continue to pursue that. I do want to talk about football. It is fabulous what the football team is doing, and I've had a chance to be at all the playoff games but one. So congratulations to the coaches and the players. But as I sit there watching, I see the community there, right? It's not just the football team. The stands are filled. We need to bring in another grandstand for another 500 seats, I think it was. But very pleased to say, when I look at the team and the band and the cheer, Latino community is very well represented. We need to continue to further integrate in the district and collaborate. But that's great to see. And of course, the band is there, and they're invigorating in their new uniforms. And so it's, and everybody's excited and feels stronger about the great place that we have to live. So clearly, while being a basketball aficionado, football is the most popular sport. There's no question about it. People get fired up, and it's we're very blessed. We're very blessed to have that. I did have a chance to go on a field trip with Mr. Santoni to the Golden Gate Park and the Science Museum there, and with one of his classes. And he's just fantastic, and is so passionate about teaching these kids about science and the possibilities of marine biology. So that was great. So glad to be part of that. Let's see, anything else that I missed was, and if you haven't had a chance to see the art show, also we have some of it up here on the walls. That's ongoing, I think, for another 4 or 5 days. It was a couple weeks. But what we are doing with the art program at the high school is, and Sean in particular and his students, it is just amazing. And much of it to me, this looks professional. So we're coming from all angles, with sports and arts and music and community. So it's exciting. So glad to be serving here on the board to support all that. That's it for me. Jay? Oh, sorry. Student. I apologize.
Okay, so I just have reports from Hatch, El Granada, Fair Longview, Cunha, and Half Moon Bay High School. So starting with Hatch, we have held 3 parent training technology nights, and that's right after the parents attend Zumba. And the Hatch Jogathon was a huge success. PTO parents collected $33,000 for our students. And Coffee with the Principal was very well attended, where parents had the opportunity to ask questions, express their concerns, network, and get the support from other parents as well. And now going to El Granada, our PTO was very active. We had our fun run in November, and all the students had a great time running laps and raising money for our school. Our book fair is in full swing, and on December 15th, we will be having a free family movie night. Also on December 15th, the 5th graders will be presenting a heritage fair. All students present about their ancestry as a part of social studies program. Our special day classes have been participating in Special Olympics for bowling, thanks to our AP teacher, Miss Agles, or Miss Angel, thank you. And our primary teachers participated in staff development in literacy from Teachers College out of Columbia University. And now starting with Fair Longview. Fair Longview gladly participated in the Night of Lights parade with a float. We had about 25 children ride it, and a number of families walked through the parade handing out candy canes. About halfway down the road, we unfortunately ran out of candy canes, but made sure we wished everyone had happy holidays. The next morning, we hosted a holiday bazaar. We had vendors that offered crafts, artwork, sweets, pozole, and tamales. We thank Miss Euster, Miss McCampin, Miss Dardanelle, and Miss Preciado for joining us. In the afternoon, 2 lively dances from Mexico. Wait, sorry about that. They got covered, I think. In the afternoon, we had a group of folklorico students wearing long and multicolored dresses who performed 2 lively dances from Mexico. To add more fun, the Susan Hayward School of Dance sent a large group of ballerinas who gracefully danced through the classical music pieces. And now with Cunha, to honor our students that reached the honor roll GPA, we took them to the Exploratorium, which was a huge success. The 7th and 8th grade basketball season still continues. Our lip sync performances are coming up, and the 6th graders perform on the 21st, the 7th graders perform on the 20th, and the 8th graders perform on the 19th. We also had a fundraiser of candy cane grams, and our school dance happened on December 8th and was well attended. Tomorrow, December 15th, we are having pajama day for the students to show school spirit. Canned food drive will also be ending tomorrow, and the next dress-up day will be on December 22nd, which will be Ugly Sweater Day. And last yearbook prices will increase on January 1st. And now going to Half Moon Bay High School. Half Moon Bay High School was able to accomplish a lot in this short period of time. Coming back from our Thanksgiving break, seniors had to turn in college applications to all CSUs and UCs. To help students relax, we made the Friday that we came back Pajama Day, which was a great success. To add to our Pajama Day, we also had our yearly Peninsula Wrestling Tournament, which went great. Congrats to the girls' wrestling team on getting first place. Really good. And then last week we had our 8th grade Shadow Day, which sadly was our last one of the year. This Shadow Day was truly amazing because it was on the same day of our outstanding Cougar Luncheon. For those 8th graders from all schools to be able to experience so much in one day is always amazing. More on sports news. The Half Moon Bay High School football team is going to state. Today during lunch we had a small pep rally to wish them good luck. The pep rally had an amazing performance by our Half Moon Bay High School band and cheer team. Tomorrow is Ugly Sweater Day, and finals will begin the week after. And in the Half Moon Bay review, I left a small quote, and I put that I want students to be more focused on finals and afraid, because I see that a lot of people do worry on finals, but it is important to stay focused. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane, it's your turn now.
So I was, as you heard, up at Fair Longview and enjoyed the holiday traditions up there. It was absolutely fantastic. Had a great time. Mr. Gaitan made sure I got, no, don't eat this, Jane. Try this, try this. So it was great. Ran into Joy, ran into Freya. So it's just a wonderful tradition of the school. It reminds me every time I go to one of these events just how wrapped our community is around our schools. There wasn't one or two people up at Fairlawn View. There were hundreds of people at Fairlawn View. That community was out. The same thing. I go to El Granada, it's not 5 or 10 people, it's 100 people at El Granada. So there isn't any doubt of how this community views its school. The high school football game, I got approached several times by people, well, I don't have any kids in the school, but I go to every game. So the community is just so integrated into our education system, and I think that's something we can never take for granted. And we continue to show our gratitude and also our welcome. We don't welcome you just if you're a parent or a grandparent. We welcome you if you never had a kid in Cabrillo Unified. We want you to be in our schools. We want you to volunteer in our schools. We recognize the unique relationship each of our schools has to its local communities. I'm the last one to say it, but congratulations to our Half Moon Bay Cougars. What a season that they have had. The CCS champions, and none of this can be taken away no matter what happens this weekend, win or lose the state championship. Please don't lose sight that the Cougars are 3-time CCS champions. This year in the open division, they weren't even supposed to be able to play in this division, more or less. 12-0, folks. It wasn't, they lost nothing. They've never lost a game this year. So I'm thrilled to see them off. They're a great group of kids. They are phenomenal, but I don't care if they win or lose. Of course, it would be nice to do it, but these kids have just won so much this year. They've proven so much. The support has been there. The cheer squad has been fabulous. The band has been fabulous. I think you guys are leaving tomorrow morning, right, to go down? Mm-hmm. So, just my comment is just have a great time. Just have a great time. It's a once-in-a-lifetime deal, and live every single second of it. So I'm wishing all of our students and all of our faculty well. We're heading for break, and well-deserved break, and hopefully I will see everyone bright and early in the new year.
Thank you, Jane. All right, let's move on to 15 consent items. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Thank you. In a second? Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 5 plus 1. All right, we'll move on to 16A, which is approve new course proposal for Half Moon Bay High School for the 2018-2019 school year.
So as presented in the last board meeting, we are bringing to you the Advanced Interdisciplinary Science for Sustainable Agricultural course, and this is going to be the capstone course for our agri-science pathway. Tonight we bring it to you for your approval.
Wonderful. Do I have a motion to approve the course as presented? Sophia, a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. 5 plus 1. 16B is approve annual Measure S bond program report. Crystal referenced this earlier.
Yes, I did reference this earlier. I'd like to share a little bit about this committee and what they actually do. The members of this committee, some of these names may sound familiar to a few people, are all volunteers from the community. And some of them don't even have children within our district. We have Naomi Patridge, Charmian Donegan, Phil Hoffman, Mike Alfano, Diane Brosny, and Chris Johnson. And these individuals, to say the least, have the most attention to detail I think I have ever seen collaboratively within a group. And their purpose is to ensure our community that the district is spending these Measure S bond dollars in accordance with the bond language, and that and that we are within what we said we were going to do. We're doing what we said we're going to do, and we're doing it. They don't really measure the wellness of it, but definitely they say we do it well. And they meet about 3 to 4 times a year. This Measure S dollars, and what they also review is an independent audit. So just as we have an independent audit of all of our funds, there is a singleton independent audit of Fund 21, which is our bond and construction fund that houses our Measure S dollars. So that's about a week-long process when an outside independent auditing firm comes into the business office, goes through our financials, does interviews, reviews management processes, and then compiles an audit report, which is attached to the back of their report, and then presents it also to these community members, which then produces, if there's an agreement and the district has done what we had promised to do, then they come up with a resolution. So that's what they are also presenting to you in this report tonight. So I definitely want to take notice of what these individuals do, because again, this is completely a volunteer, and they serve a great purpose, and they are definitely a great avenue to our community to share all of the wonderful things that we're doing with the Measure S dollars. So I present this to you tonight.
Great. And thank you for reminding me of all the hard work from the committee. Do I have a motion to approve the annual Measure S bond program report? Freya, a second. Kurt, all in favor? Aye. All right, 5 plus 1. Crystal, we're going to come back to you. Approve first interim budget for 2017-2018.
Yes, as presented to you earlier, this action is asking you to approve a positive certification for the 17-18 first interim budget.
A motion to approve the first interim budget? First, second? Thank you, Sophia. All in favor? Aye. 5 plus 1 again. All right, 16D, approve a contract with CAW Architects, Inc. to design Phase 4 of Hatch Elementary School. Crystal?
Yes, this is very exciting as we are contracting and welcoming a new architect firm to the district for Hatch Phase 4, which will be the kinder unit of the Hatch modernization project, also include the playgrounds, landscaping, and a couple other miscellaneous items. So this contract presented before you is to welcome CAW as the architects of that phase of the Hatch modernization project.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the contract with CAW Architects? Second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Also 5 plus 1. We'll move on to 16E, approve Cabrillo Unified School District Governing Board policy updates and adopt the proposed revisions as recommended by the California School Board Associations. It's that time of the year, Jane, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is nothing, you should wait and see what's coming next. So that, we always update our board policy, and there's always new law, and so the board policies have to change under law. So this is, there were a slew of them this time about actual superintendent evaluations and a lot of stuff having to do with kind of central office stuff. And so every month you can look forward to seeing these, because I just did, 8 more. And then there's another bunch I have sitting there. So a lot of law changes going on at this time. And the California School Boards, we use the California School Board Association because they send us language that has been vetted by the lawyers and by the legislator, so that we are not getting ourselves in any kind of legal trouble. And so we pay for that service, and as do most, well, 99, no, all of us in San Mateo County. I was going to say, I don't think there's anybody in San Mateo County who doesn't use the School Boards Association for update. And so that is how we go about updating policy. And so here are a whole set of them.
Thank you. Do we have a comment? Oh, a motion. Yeah, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Yes.
So one of the parts of this is the philosophy, goals, objectives, and comprehensive plans. In some ways, the language seems very duplicative, but at the same time, it kicks it up a notch when you read the language. And while part of me, when we look at policies and we add law, I draw an analogy to the systems engineering manual for NASA. It always grows. And at what point is it a tipping point that we can't possibly absorb all of it? But at the core, I just want to read two of the bullets. All students can learn and succeed, and the future of our nation and community depends on students possessing the skills to be lifelong learners, collaborative and creative problem solvers, and effective contributing members of a global and technologically advanced society. That's what we're saying we're doing, and I just wanted to bring that to the surface. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Wait.
Sorry. Oh, another comment, I apologize.
Yeah, two questions. No, and I guess I'll say a comment first. I think it's actually really all good changes, just looking through the content. It just makes it feel like it is 21st century in terms of addressing the forward-looking, technologically, advanced needs that our students will have. The piece about the websites actually, like, acknowledging there's an internet, stuff like that. Two questions I had. One were on philosophy. To me, again, as Kimberly said, like reading through this, it feels really powerful and really great messages. But is this all boilerplate language we got from CSBA, or is it something that we came up with in the district?
CSBA.
Yeah, it's really good. I just think about how we communicate and advocate within our district. This is something that we can maybe, if we need to keep it kind of, I guess my observation was 17 items are hard to remember. I'm wondering is there an opportunity, perhaps not, should we look at opportunities within the board policy, or should we look at opportunities outside the board policy to utilize these in a user-friendly way to communicate, I think, what we all believe about students and their ability to learn and the needs that they have. I realize that
Outside the board
I realize
policy.
the complexity because of the legal.
Yeah, this carries so much legal heavy weight on it that my advice is very similar to what we do with our local control accountability plan. So it became our educational plan, and then it goes right down to a single one-pager.
Yeah.
So,
Because there's really good stuff,
that-
you have
yeah,
to pull it out,
yeah.
and like simplify it, and figure out like what are the
Correct.
key messages here that we can tack onto the strategic education plan, or,
Yep.
whatever it is. So that was my comment there. And then for the other, the piece about, I don't recall what it's called, the one about websites. I was curious, in this age of digital technology, what is it within scope of the websites? Because there are a lot of new technologies in social media that are being used adjunct to our schools, or closed groups on social media.
So yeah, they're excluded.
Okay.
So that this is strictly for a district or school site,
Main
website.
site, okay.
So it's like Hatch's website that the
website.
school,
Yeah, the district website.
Right.
And not like
No, no.
current Facebook
No,
groups
no.
or
No,
classroom
no, we don't want to go there.
things like that.
Yeah,
I just
we
wanted to
just
make
so
sure
don't.
because
And this actually defines it rather strictly as to what it is. Yeah,
I missed that definition, so thank you
yeah,
for
yeah,
clarifying.
yeah. No problem.
But I think these are all really great, so it's nice to see. I know we kind of have to do them too, but it's nice to have that in our documentation. Thank you. I'll write it down in my-
Any others? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, 5 plus 1. Okay, 17, future board items. So we will be receiving a report on El Granada Elementary School soon, receive a Measure B annual report, receive a strategic education plan annual update to goals 3 and 4. So we'll be seeing more from Joey, all right. Receive construction update report, receive budgetary audit report, approve ConApp part report 2, approve Williams uniform complaint reports. We do that regularly. All right, and then future events, the 22nd, Pillar Cetus is having their fall graduation ceremony. All right, Raj. All right, December 23rd through the 8th, where everybody's on break. January 1st is Happy New Year. We have MLK on the 15th, all sites will be closed. Kindergarten registration for next year is on January 16th, and on January 18th, we'll be convening again at 7 p.m. So we have no reason to return to closed session this time, so do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Kim, a second? Thank you, Sophia. All in favor? Aye. All right. 5 plus 1, and consider us adjourned.